All right. Thank you, everybody. Welcome back. I'm glad that you have all come back. It means we're doing something right here. One of the things that I want to say is I'm very impressed with the amount of information that you have all been able to absorb in such a short amount of time. So that lets me know that you have been planning, you have been organizing, and that you are aware of the steps and the activities that you need to do to bring your plan to life. So one of the things we are here to do today is just to support you in that process and to ensure that whatever information that we provide, if you need any clarity or if you have any concerns, please reach out to Andrea or myself and we will help you out with that. So just to recap from our session one, we did have some homework that we were all supposed to look into. So I would want to hear from all of you, anyone that has had the opportunity to play around with their mission statement, with their vision, and with their value proposition. And I just maybe you can give us a thumbs up if you had the opportunity to work on your products and services along with your business description. So those were the two key areas. It's okay if you haven't gotten that far because these sessions are recorded and you will have a copy. So please, I understand it can be a daunting task when you're rushing. So I don't want you to I don't want you to be overwhelmed. Just know that if you do need to go back to a session, I would advise you to go back and reorganize yourself with the information in session one so that you're not confused moving on to session two. Okay. So is there any questions that we have for anybody that has been working through their mission, vision, value propositions? And as well, if there's any information or clarification that is required when it comes to the business description and the products and services. All good?
Okay. Yeah, we've got a question actually.
Okay.
From okay. So from somebody said, as an artist primarily,
Mhm.
how do we differentiate from B2C, so business to customers, so
Yep.
fans and listeners,
Yep.
and B2B, business to business, so prospective agents, collaborators, etc., in our business plan? That's a really good question.
Okay. So here's where it's so I've seen people do two business plans, one to target. The only issue with that is I find it's very hard to keep one strategy, right? So it's better that if you're going to, you have two sections. You have your section for your B2C, so your strategy and how you communicate and how you attract and how you work with your B2C and then how you work to your B2B. The only difference is that you're mentioning that when you're when let's say when you first start your business description, you're going to mention that the unique selling proposition or the unique opportunity for your business is that you're pursuing both the B2C and the B2B. Right away, that identifies that you have two strategies that are all connected to your overall organizational strategy to build both areas. So how do you differentiate? So let's say if you are an artist and you're working on your music as a B2C, and then as now you have areas where you're working B2B. So maybe you're doing two different. So again, your music is the product, and maybe you're performing a service. So as long as you can differentiate when you're in one mode versus the other, it's okay to have it inclusive in one plan. Just remember that all the key questions that you all the key questions that you answer for your B2C must be thoroughly explained through the B2B. So a good way to do this is to chart it out. I'm not sure if you guys are or if you all are all familiar with value mapping, but it's a great opportunity. Check it out. If you don't, I can provide Andrea with some resources just to be able, it's a really great graphical representation that can follow your text because a lot of people will not be able to distinguish that from reading your plans. So if you have a value mapping stream, it basically just distinguishes visually what your task, activities, and tools are under the B2C as well as linking them to the B2B. And then you would just thoroughly explain it, just like you would explain any other part. But it's really important that you show the graphical connection, because not everybody will pick that up through the text.
Okay,
Did I
so then
answer
you
that
think,
question?
yeah, I'm just
Well,
following up on it. Like,
okay.
do you think then, so would you suggest then in this case,
Mhm.
that they include the graphic, like the visual as
Yes.
well? Okay,
Yes,
just to
always,
height.
especially
Okay.
when it starts. If my rule of thumb is, if you read it and you have questions by reading the text, then you have to assume someone else will not understand. And instead of having to verbally explain once it's already written, because we tend to reverberate what's already written on the paper. So it's better to have a graphical representation. It's easier for you to explain the differences, but where they connect and intersect as well. Because basically, you're serving both aspects. You're serving business to business, and you're serving business to customer. It's the only thing that changes is the customer. The strategy is still the same. The tactics and the goals and the objectives are all the same. It's just tailored to one consumer versus the other. So just show it in a graphical representation. It makes it a little bit easier for people to see, so that you don't get questioned about it too much. Because again, if that's a part of your operations to serve both, then that's a great thing to have. Just be able to thoroughly explain it.
Lovely. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
there's no, that's okay. There's no other questions at the moment.
Okay.
Yes, I just want to say somebody shared that they had a nice call with another attendee and they worked through things together, and that makes me very, very, very happy to hear.
Oh,
I love
yay.
that. That's really great.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear that. You know what? Honestly, we're all in this boat together. We're all trying to improve the economy, and we've got to be more supportive and working with each other, because you never know when we're going to require support or resource or have information that we can pass on. That's exactly, why. You see successful people, because they network, and they're not afraid to work and collaborate. And I think that that's what's going to separate, you all, from the people that are entering and maybe not feeling comfortable to opening up, asking questions, or working with a partner. I mean, two heads are better than one. So I really like the fact that you all took the advice and are collaborating. So I'm really glad about that. I do apologize. I am feeling a little bit under the weather. So if you can't hear me, or if you need me to speak a little bit more clear or slow down, please don't hesitate. I will adjust my speed or sound to your needs. So moving on, I'm glad that we answered that question. So we are getting down now, um, to the third step of our presentation. So one of the things that I wanted to, I guess, just explain to you all is that when it comes to the market research, I know that um, a lot of us are going to get overwhelmed, and I get it. I get why we get overwhelmed, but that's why one of the things we wanted to do in this presentation is always refer you back to slide 7. Slide 7 will be your save all when you start writing down your different sections. If you ever get confused, if you ever you're not sure if you're hitting the main points, because remember, there are several questions that you must answer, and that's basically all it is. It's questions, your answer, your response. And we don't want you to be overwhelmed by the amount of information, because remember, you have control over how you present the information. So if you don't want to, go a whole page and a half, well, then this is where you get to utilize your own creativity. So we have things such as bar graphs, we have such things as images. We also have I would say second and third research that you can use as well, as long as you cite your sources, and it's relevant to the time and place that you're working with. So one of the challenging things that I found researching this industry is that there's so much American stats. I found reports, I found books, I found magazines, and it was a little bit more challenging to find the Canadian stats. So And then after I did a little bit more research, I found out because, you know, we're eighth in the industry. So the primary industry is America with more people, more resources, more money, bigger stake in the marketplace, bigger market share. So everything is geared towards that. But it doesn't mean that you can't find any of the information within this presentation, because the slides that I did use came from credible sources. And if they're not listed, I will provide them to you, as well as they are current and up to date. So you can use the information contained in that section when we get to, I believe that's slide 16. That is the real industry stats for the Canadian chapters of the music industry. Okay. Now, if you need to go a little bit more, because I do realize now that we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are not just serving B2C, that they have a variety where they're definitely doing a mixed strategy. So they're tailoring to B2C and B2B. Again, it doesn't mean your strategy is different. It just means that you are going after two types of the dollars, right? And two types of customers. So you'll have your individual customer, and then you'll have your business customer. So the strategy is the same, only the tactics and the steps and the objectives will be different, right? So to move on, again, I just wanted to again mention slide 7. If you do get confused or if you are not fully understanding everything that goes into the market research, please remember we're going to start with what is the market research, right? And that basically is the information on how the industry operates, who are the competitors, and how are they performing to serve the market needs of the customer. So when we talk about the market analysis, that's where, so the market research is all of the information that's contained within the market. Your market analysis. So the difference between the two is your market analyst is targeted towards your aspects. So the research is the whole, all the information contained within the music industry. But again, if you are only dealing with one B2C or B2B, or you are dealing with if you're only dealing with certain aspects, maybe writing, maybe producing, or maybe artist development, and you're not working on all of the different aspects, then your information would be tailored to that activity or set of activities. And it doesn't mean that you can't include them as an overall and analysis. Just make sure it's focused on the main task and activities that you are practicing in, or that you're demonstrating it. So one of the main things we want to include is, of course, industry size. How big is the marketplace? How many players are in there? Are there anything like new technology? Is there anything changing within the industry that's going to impact any of the key players as well as new entrants? Because remember, key players, they are already established. They're usually dominant players. They've been in existence for a while. They have a lot of resources. They have the power. They have, the technology. They've got the trademarks. They have a roster of people that are helping them further develop and to continue to grow. But there's also new entrants. And sometimes we forget to recognize new people coming into the industry and how that impacts the industry. And I say that because, who knew that 25 years ago we'd be streaming music? Like, I'll be honest with you, I used to buy CDs, and I used to buy them through the mail. And, if you could have told me in my future that I would be streaming it online, and just think of how much that impact the organization. So even these major players, we gave you a few different competitors that are existing in the market. These are the key players. We named a few of them. Now, just imagine if they were not strategic in adjusting to the disruption of streaming music online. Just think how that would have devastated the music industry. And I believe there for a while, it actually had some negative impacts and implications for both the artists as well as the industry. So that's why it's important not just to think of the big players. Look at the new players that are coming in, because sometimes they are the biggest disruptor. Usually people don't pay attention to it. So if you can basically scan the horizons and look at the landscape and look at the environment and what's impacting it, that will give you a good heads up onto what's coming, so that you too can plan for your share and stake into the market share, because you're a competitor too. Once your plans are written and once you are actively, actively producing the work, and you are aligning your strategy to the activities, and you're producing the work, you are a competitor. And everything that you do will help you to improve your positioning, to grow your brand, to help you be more recognizable, and to help you support and grow over time. So depending on the strategy that you're going to be taking, some are profitability, some are the growth, some are looking for collaborations, or some of them are vertical integration. So working with other organizations, maybe taking over current ones as they grow. So again, this will all be revealed when you do your market analysis, because you'll see what some of the big players are doing, what some of the new entrants are doing, and how that environment is shaped, and where you think you can fit in there. Because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to differentiate your business, your product, your service from what's out there. And I know when we say differentiate, now music is music. I understand that a product of music, but remember what makes your sound attractive. If you're an artist, or if you are an artist manager, or you're a firm and you're dealing with the development of the artist, maybe you have an ability to work with artists better than anyone else. Maybe you have the talent for making music or singing, or maybe you come up in a family that there's a bunch of artists, so you have a better understanding of how to motivate them, of how to support them, or how to organize them. Maybe you have all the connections in the industry, or maybe you just have a really great way with people, and people naturally trust you, and they feel like with you that they can go a long way, so, or go a far way, right? And these are the things that you would explain, because that's what differentiates you from somebody else that just has the role, makes good money, and doesn't really, maybe, and I'm not saying that, all of the players that are out there now don't care. I know Andrea cares a lot, and she is doing everything that she can to support artists she hasn't even met. She continuously challenges herself to scan the market and to look for better ways to serve you artists. So just remember, there are people that exist that are in it for the right reasons, that have a heart, and you want to demonstrate that vision in your plans. So we're going to move on now to the target market. You can read that yourself, but just the one key thing I want you to take away from this is just remember, your target market isn't everybody. If there are, I believe, what we have around 5 million people in the city of Toronto. This number might have increased or decreased, so don't quote me on that. But let's say we have 5 million people in the city of Toronto, and not all of them are going to be within the same age group, within the same ethnicity, within the same sex. Maybe they don't, they're all segmented into their own group. So when you're looking at your target market, for your genre of music, or for your genre of development. So if you're working with artists that are hip hop, maybe you're working with rock and roll bands, maybe you're working with R&B, maybe you're working with jazz. Like, there are so many different excuse me, there are so many different aspects to the market. So one of the things that we did say, that one of the main issues that we found with a poorly written business plan was not having your target market defined. So remember that you want to focus on their needs, the demand, and what is your most ideal customer. So if you look at my age, you would look at how much money I make, maybe where I reside within the city of Toronto. What are the things I like to do, what things affect me, and what things I don't like about the music industry. And that would give you a synopsis of what the segment of people are within your target market. You can have more than one, and this is really good that you mentioned that there's a lot of B2B and B2C. So I think what I'm going to do for the next session is I'm going to just add a slide on what it looks like to target both the B2C and B2B under with a strategy of profitability. I think that will help. That will help for anybody that gets to that section and doesn't know how to basically to put the market research information with that strategy aligned. Because right now I do mention some B2B aspects, but I do it in form of graphics. So I want to give you the opportunity to see how it looks in form sentences. And then I'll also give you a little bit of an image to just to support that. So when you get to that slide, you'll understand how to do that. So to move on, because I'm taking a little bit long with this slide, but I hope you all have read. So when we talk about the sales strategy, you're going to see this is just everything that we basically said on slide 7 under sales strategy and market analyst. You will have all of these different different listings, which are the questions that you must answer within that section of the plan. So just to quickly go over, you want to make sure if you are already conducting your business, you are already in operation. It doesn't matter if you're 3 months in, if you're 6 months in, or if you're 12 months in, you will have acquired sales data. And that will give you information on how you are doing. How long does it take you to get a sale? How much money did it cost you to make a sale? Where do your sales come from? And if it's working for you, how would you do more of that so you can continue on with the success? Excuse me. And if it's not successful, how can you redefine or reorganize the strategy so that you can, start turning the negatives into a positive? So how you would take the lack of sales and turn them into sales. So when we move on, if you have not started your business plan, if you have not started your business yet and you're working with your plan, then the main thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to be using sales forecasts and sale assumptions. They mean the exact same thing. I don't know why we use them interchangeably, but they mean the same thing, the assumptions and the forecasts, right? And basically that is you based on all of the key activities and all of the objectives identified within your plan. After you know who your target market is, you know what they need to support a sale, you know where to find these sales, you've already communicated with them, you have a strategy, and you're ready to release your products and services, then you would use the sales forecasting. And you're going to see that it's a part of the financial section, which is included in session 3. So I just wanted to let you know that when you look at those numbers, those are future numbers. They're not past numbers. And I do know that we have a 50-50 split in this group. So what I might do is, no, actually what I will do is I will do 2 sets of financials. I will do it in an Excel, and I will do one for, which is a sales assumption for the businesses that have not started. And then I will do one for a business that has been in operation for at least a year. And that way maybe we don't have time to go through everything. So what I will do is I'll do it in an Excel and I'll send it to Andrea so she can blast it out to everybody. So you have that when it comes time to reference those slides, right? So here we go. When we talk about the market analysts, we want to talk about two parts, right? We want to talk about how the sector operates and how it currently operates, and if there's any changes that are coming along, and the environment, because it's all about the internal and the external environment and how that reflects the firms currently dominating the industry as well as the new ones coming in, right? So I'm not going to read all of the slides, but what I'll do is I'll just read the first paragraph just to let you know the type of information that we should discuss, or what you should have in your market analyst report. And remember, not everybody will know how your industry operates, or sometimes they have preconceived ideas of how it operated or how it operates. And then when they actually look at a business plan, they may not really know how all of the parts are interconnected and how one activity supports another. So it's always good to write it as if the person reading it doesn't have the information and the knowledge that you have. That way, it's less for you to have to explain. You want the plan to speak for itself and answer all the key questions without you having to verbally explain over the plan, right? Excuse me. So, the music industry comprises of a variety of firms, companies, and independents. Over the years, the market has adapted well to many industry changes due to technology and the rise of media sharing platforms. And do you see why this is important? Remember when we spoke earlier, I did state that you want to make sure that you're aware of any disruptions or anything significant that has impacted the business and the industry, because you are a new player and you have to include that into your strategy, just in order to survive, in order to be relevant. So that's why that information is there. And then we're going to continue on. So the current major concern in the music industry is profits gained from companies that partake in tasks like publication, distribution, and production of music around the world. The creation and distribution of music happens in separate places. For example, the retailing, manufacturing, and wholesaling occurs in one place, and the production of the music can take place somewhere else. So the publication of the music sometimes requires the leasing of music as intellectual property so that it can be used in live performances and beyond. All right. Now, why did we include all of that information? Because it's relevant. It is also just giving you the opportunity to know what key activities and key tasks that you're going to have to formalize in order to compete in the industry. Now, again, there's this section continues on, and it just goes into other parts of what the industry does, and I believe it goes into the industry from different perspectives. So you've got you've got a promoter, you've got an agent, you've got the artist, and that's good. If you are only working with one or two of those aspects, then please mention it, mention that, but, don't leave out how the industry operates, because there is going to be some intersectionality to what you're doing and the environment. Even if you're only doing 3 of 6 tasks, you should still have it. You just don't have to focus on it. So maybe a paragraph, and then the rest would be more related to your activities or the activities that you perform the most. Okay, so please read over that slide. Make sure you are using it from the perspective that you are operating from, and include those activities and those tasks in that section. So now this part, I gave a little bit of a little way, I guess, back to how we did. I believe it was slide 8 and slide 9, where I gave you an example using the company North Sun Management. And again, this is how I would start off the market analyst. This aspect is more focused to the size of the market. So this would be the second section, but you could also start with this as well. Remember, you are all the creators of your own plan. Just because I put it this way doesn't mean it might make more sense for you to start off with the size of the marketplace and then jump into how the industry operates. And it doesn't matter which way, it's more about preference and how it aligns to the other sections. So here, just to give an example, it says North Sun Management Company operates in the province of Ontario, also referred to as the heartbeat of the Canadian music industry. Well, I said Canadian market industry. So Canada's music sector grew by 12.6% in 2021 to a total of $583.6 million, making it the 8th largest market in the world. Canada's growth was driven by an 18% increase of streaming, which includes 15.6% in paid subscription streamings and 29.1 and 28.2 gains in ad-supported audio streaming and ad-supported video streaming, respectively. Now, there you go. Now, this is exactly why you need to differentiate between the size of the market and changes in the market. Because did you see where we spoke about when we were talking about how the market operates and big changes? Well, 25 years ago, these numbers would not have been so large. And I can guarantee that it took the major players in the organization, it took them a long time, or I shouldn't say a long time, but a reasonable amount of time to be able to address their current strategies to include the changes that happen via technology. And this is why it's very important to research your industry and to pay attention to emerging technology or pay attention to your market needs. Because if you know how to read your target market, you would know that hey, these many of the main customers that purchase music are no longer walking in to the record stores like Sam the Record Man. They're not even in existence anymore. Maybe you would say, okay, well, at this point, this is how I was able to attract my customer. Now I have to strategize on how to come up with a plan that will allow me to network and advertise and connect with them through social media, because they're making majority of their purchases without leaving their homes. So I know the internet is a major is just a major change to the way we conduct business. But there's also a really great opportunity for the small people like us just starting out, because we now have the same audience. We have access to the same audience. The barriers entering the market are reduced. Now, when I say that, are there certain, like you know that it costs a lot of money to start a business? Yes. But could you imagine 20 years ago, if you were trying to rival one of the biggest organizations, that you would have to like get in a room with all of those music execs that you probably have no clue where they live, don't know what, you may know where they work, but you may not have access to their email and their phone. But now everybody's on LinkedIn, everybody has social media. So it has improved the conditions for a lot of us to be able to get our products and our services in front of a larger amount of people in a short amount of time, and just reducing the barriers to entry to the market for us little people. So it's really great that these changes are taking place. They're taking place very quickly, and you need to make sure that when you're building your plans, that you include these changes, so that even if it's not a primary activity, maybe list it as a secondary activity, but it's something that you should be thinking of, because you may not get a time to enter it with ease as you can. Things are always changing. What's hit and new now may not be hit and new later. So again, you have the rest of this information here to look over. Some key stats that were included here were for more of well, it's for both. It's for the artists as well as for the firms that want to be representing artists. It's good to know in Toronto how many singers and people, and how many people identify as musicians and singers, and what comprises them into being a musician or a singer. Does that mean they have to be full-time? They have to be performing? They have to be making this amount of money? And surprisingly, no, because a much larger percentage of artists, they all have education in various fields, which is, I believe, 47% over 28 versus the 28%. 52% are considered self-employed artists, and with only 12% of all Canadian workers. So they represent 12% of all Canadian workers. So 52% of artists are self-employed, one stat. And if you look at the whole Canadian working economy, Canadian musicians represent 12%, which is a higher percentage than I would have thought prior to doing this plan. I don't know why I didn't think it would have been that high, and I'm actually really glad because I love music. So, it definitely is important that how many people are currently in the market, what type of representation that they may need, how many are full time, and then it also goes on to tell you about the underserved and underrepresented groups. And remember, like the Canadian population is changing. We have a lot more minority groups expanding, and you don't want to. We are an inclusive community and an inclusive society. So if we're not advocating or if we're not increasing participation for minorities, then it is, what does that say? About us as citizens, right? We all want to be represented fairly. We all believe in equality, and we all want that support. And we want to make sure that support exists for the future generations. So, if your business plan is a target, and I'm not saying to change it or to expand it, I'm saying be aware when you write your plans based on your strategy and who your target market is, that you might want to fully take into consideration the changes that are going to affect the Canadian population, because we have a lot of changings. We have more and more people immigrating, and they come from various different countries. They speak different languages, different ethnicities, different culture, and different style of music. And we want to make sure that everybody has, especially musicians and especially organizations in the music industry, it is very important that we ensure that everybody has the opportunity to be represented and to contribute to the fabric of Canada. So I just want you to take that into consideration. Again, only who your market is and what your market needs are, but always remember it's better to include instead of exclude, right? Okay, so we're moving on now to our next slide. Do we have any questions? I am going through these slides a little bit quickly because I do want to leave some questions for the end and an opportunity for us just to talk about any concerns moving forward, or anything that I went over too quick and you want to just have the opportunity to discuss, or even conversations. So is everybody okay at this moment? We're good? Okay. All right, so we'll keep going. All right, so when we're talking about the sales strategy and the target market, I did do two slides. So we have the internal customer and we have the external. When we get to the next slide, it might get a little bit confusing, so I will explain why I did it that way. But this is the information that you're going to utilize to go out to identify who your target market is. So the ideal candidate. So the best or the most likely person to purchase or to utilize your services and your products, right? So again, you'll have if you are an artist, your external customer are the fans. Those are the people that you want your music to reach to. As a music organization or a firm, you have the internal. So if you're representing an artist, you care about so they are your internal customer, but you also have to take into consideration the external. So who the music is being tailored towards, who it's being marketed to, the fan base, all of these things. So do you see how both the internal and external customers come into play? If you do need any further explanation on that, I can revisit that back in a second. So the key demographics, surprisingly, the average age of artists in Canada are from the ages of 18 to 50-year-old. There's an even split with 50% being women, 50% being men. I really like that. So, it has a great opportunity to be definitely an organization or an industry that supports equality. 86% are actively in the industry, and 14% are currently active as a secondary. So those would be the people that are doing it part-time. So maybe they have a full-time job. Maybe this is the part of the sector that has a degree and is working in an industry, but they still perform as an artist. Or if they're not performing as an artist, maybe they're working as artist manager or developing music, and or they're on the service end of the music industry. And then we've got 40% of them are married or in a serious relationship. So that's really important, because that probably explains why so many of them have to keep their day jobs. I mean, if you're not making, if you're not one of those top tier artists and you're not making a substantial salary, you're probably going to have to be working. So if you're representing an artist from a firm side, or you are the artist, you have to take into consideration, how much money is out there, and how much money are you willing to go after? How much time are you willing to put in to it? How much time is your organization that is working with you going to put into it? Because it's nothing, worse than having the skills and the talent, the vision and the belief, but no support, right? And that comes from both sides. And that's why it's important to understand the stats for your internal and your external customers, because that way you have the opportunity to actually connect with them. So a good thing that I always say is, if you are starting something new, or if you have already been doing or conducting your business, you have, you do have a client profile. You've worked with these people, or you are about to reach out to them. Either way, reach out to them. Don't always engage when you're looking to make a sale, because now you're like a sales agent and no one likes them. We often hang up on the phone, hang up immediately once we know there is somebody from a sales department. So one of the biggest thing is to nurture your relationships. If there's somebody that bought from you, maybe send them a little summit, like a little survey. Why did you purchase with? What are you happy with? Are you satisfied? Are you likely to purchase again? Do you have anybody you can recommend? This is going to help you to start growing data for your own organization, but also it will help you to analyze key trends, things that you're doing well as identify the things that you're not doing so well. And it's better to hear it from, in a survey, than have someone blast you publicly on social media. It is not comfortable. It's awful, and you don't want to have to endure that. So reach out to your customers, in any way that you can. But please make sure that you are not just reaching out to them when you're trying to make a sale. Be authentic, be honest, and treat everybody the way you would want to be treated. So again, if you can look over onto Christopher Richards, you'll see his bio, you'll see his age, his profession. It talks about where he lives, and then please pay attention to the frustrations, the motivations, and his goals, because these are big indicators on the level of skepticism he'll have. So if you are an artist and you're looking for someone that has his skill set, or I believe he wants to own a recording studio and create a record album. So for any of the firms out there, if this is the one area of business that you are going to be involved with, this may be a key contact for you. Or if you're an artist, knowing Christopher Richards would help you out, because he likes to explore new avenues to learn, to get a big career breakout. So it shows that he's willing to put in the work to be there, to grow over time. And again, like he seems like he has a really good heart, and he has the passion for music. So this is the way that you are going to explain who your target market is and how you identify them, because that's where you are going to formulate your sales strategy. And that is how you're going to engage. How are you going to connect? What are you going to offer? How do you share your mission? How do you let them know what your vision is? How do you explain to them why your products and services are better? And what do you think is going to resonate with them? And why they're going to utilize your business services. So that's everything that is, as you can see through all of the different sections of the plan, we're basically just regurgitating what we're going to do from that aspect. So from the business description, the products and services, to the operations, to the sales strategy, and to the market, analysis. both, all of those parts, you're just speaking from different perspectives. All right. So remember when I said we have the external customer, this slide may be a little bit confusing, but I just want you to know that we have the artist in the middle, and we have the artist in the middle for a reason, right? So again, when the first step in creating a winning sales strategy lies in understanding the business's most ideal internal and external customers, and the personas who are the end users for the products and services. North Sun's primary focus is Canadian talent in music, also known as artists, bands, performers, writers, composers, and creators, and the fan base, the general public that listens, shares, promotes, and purchases the music. So this firm, North Sun, has two streams, right? They work with the artists, they help get the music populated, they also develop the artists, and I'm sure there are a multitude of crossover. So they have the B2B, which is how they interact with consumers of music by getting the artists in front of the fan base. So that would be the B2B side. And then you have the B2C, which is them working with their internal client, which is the artist, right? So them developing, them booking shows, them making sure they're recording, making sure they have all of the support that they need to become market ready, or to grow their roster, or to grow their artist profile, because they're already quite recognized and well known in the industry. So maybe making them bigger. So this is why I said we have the internal and the external, keeping the momentum up, playing live streaming, making money, crowdfunding, subscription. So these would be purchased by the external customer, but the internal customer is the artist. So that's why I gave a visual representation. I do explain it over here on the left-hand side. And that's just exactly how you would explain it. You would explain the different activities that are going to be undertaken for your internal customer as well as your external. If you do not fully understand a certain aspect of how they relate, then please, speak with Andrea. She has a wealth of information and will probably be able to help you make sense within an area where there's maybe a lot of intersection or there is a crossover, right? Again, ask questions, get clarifications, and if anything, reach out to another member of this this group, because they might be able to help you navigate as well. So we're going to move on to the operations part. Okay. So the operational objectives is different from the company's overall objective. The operational objective explains how the business intends to complete the strategic objective. So what does that mean? So we have two objectives. The strategic objective is the overall company. This is your mission, your vision, and your value proposition, how it relates from everything that you are going to undertake and perform and to execute for the business or the organization or firm. Right? But then we have the operational objective. So let's look at the breakdown over here. We've got how many aspects do you see? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All of these are different sections of operations that will be performed by the organization. So you will have business affairs, you'll have legal matters and accounting. Who's going to make sure the artist gets paid? Who's going to make sure there's a trademark applied? Who's going to make sure they have rights to the music? There's that aspect. We also move down further along the line that bleeds into the marketing part, right? The radio, the video, the promotion. All of these activities must be performed properly and efficiently each and every time so that they uphold the overall strategic vision and mission for the organization. So that's the difference between the operational objective to do all of these things at a high level of quality, to do it quickly, maybe to do it more efficiently than others, or to make sure that the artist, because remember here, when we go back to what the unique selling proposition is, was that instead, I believe we were going to take 10% or was it 15%? I believe North Sun was going to take less than what the standard was. So you would basically just explain how these operations, each step, and again, you don't have to have pages and pages and pages, as long as you can identify what the tasks are and who's responsible for it. This is where you'll also want to just maybe include the management plan. I left that part off because it's so there's so much it's so much information out there about the management section. It's just literally who's a part of the organization, what skill sets do they have, and remember, this can go in the appendix as well, if you'd like. But your degrees, or if you have any type of music training, or if you have any certification within the industry, or you just have a passion and there are things that you have actively done to pursue to pursue the plans within the business plan, right? Or if that's the strategy that you've been utilizing, it's been working for you, you're growing, and you're ready to execute on a much larger level. So this is where a lot of brain work will need to be involved so that you fully understand, because you may not be taking on all of these. Now, again, we do have room for collaborations, partnership, vertical integration, where maybe it's not something within the first year or two that you can take on yourself. So maybe it's something that you outsource to another organization. Maybe you have a partnership agreement, and then you would say, well, we're going to be doing, areas 1, 2, and 3. And then, areas 4, 5, and 6 will be outsourced for this amount of time. This is the agreement that we have, and you would include that. A lot of organizations start off doing 1 out of 2 out of 3, and then as they grow, they start taking a bigger chunk out of the market share. But only you will know what you're capable of doing within the first year or two. Again, we usually write our business plans for up to 5 years, and so you'll have your short-term goals, you'll have your midterm goals, and then you'll have your long term. So it's okay to include it. And you can always mention that and back it up and saying, we do know that it takes a lot to put all of these plans in place. So for the purposes of year 1 to year 3, we're going to focus on, A, B, and C. And then year 3, 4, and 5 will be looking at towards the other areas. So that's another way that you can do it. It's a solidified way that's been used. It's tried and true in practice several times. So it's okay if you use it in that category or in that capacity as well. So just make sure that, again, if you are not going to be doing those activities within the first year or the second year, just mention it. But you don't have to go in to fully explain it, as long as the primary activities that you're going to be doing right off the hop, that those ones you're doing right away. Okay. So now we have the SWOT. All right. So this part of the plan is really important, because this is where you get to show everybody the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats versus you and your competitors in the industry. So I want you to remember, let me just state this. Your strengths and weaknesses, they're internal, okay? So we would list for the strengths and the weaknesses. If this was our part of the plan, we would be including the strengths and weaknesses for North Sun, right? Management company. Maybe one of the weaknesses is that we're brand new. We're new to the marketplace. Maybe another part is we are operating in an industry where there's a lot of major players that own a large amount of the market share, right? So we would list all of the things that would make us appear weak. But the benefit is we can also list the things that make us strong, all of the things that we are willing to, or maybe we have the opportunity to do that other organizations don't have. Strategy is very inclined, is very involved in an organization, but organizations that have been in existence a long time, it's honestly very hard to change their strategy, because it's worked so well for them in the past that it would take them longer to reevaluate their strategies rather than someone new and coming in, because you have all the information, you have the innovation, you have certain tech, you have certain advantages that they don't have. Them making a big change would take a long time for it to go across every department, every organization, and the geographical seas. Like they would literally have to get, it costs a lot of money and would take a longer amount of time. But for people that are just new, and organizations and businesses that are just entering, this can be a part of your plan from the beginning. So the strengths and weaknesses are internal, and you would do this for every competitor that you list in your plan. You can do 3 strengths, 3 weaknesses, but that is speaking about you, and you would do that for every organization. And then the opportunities and threats, those are more about things that are happening in the industry, new changes, government regulations. Maybe there's change in how the government is going to regulate the trademarks or the copyrights for music. Maybe there's going to be a change where things that affect the marketplace that come down. So you'll have regulatory changes that will affect, and you have to identify these things. Emerging competitors, changing technology, negative, like all of these are easy to be identified for the current players in the industry. It may be a little bit harder for yourself, but just think what the competition is and what they're doing, or what doesn't work well for them. And then you can include that for yourself if that's something you're going to include in your strategy. And all business plans require a SWOT analysis. You don't have to, you can be more thorough if you'd like, but even 3 bullet points for each competitor that you're listing, you're probably going to list at least 3, and then you'll have your internal synopsis on your strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats, which would bring it to 4. And that is how you can compare and contrast on what you're doing, what opportunities are available for yours, your within sorry that are available for you, and then versus the opportunities or the strengths and weaknesses that are existing in the markets for your competitors. So again, I did include record labels, management companies. One of the things I was going to include on is the other distribution, but I figured I didn't want to overcomplicate it because we don't know how many of us are going to need that. So if you do have any issues with coming up with some of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, there are a lot of YouTube videos out there on how to identify what some of these strengths are. Remember that the first 2, strengths and weaknesses, are about the internal, and the opportunities and threats are always about the external. Things that can happen, change, or have happened in the past that might disrupt or improve that will impact the industry. So that brings us to 401. We are actually done now. That was the last slide. We have our session 3, which is the financials. So I just want to give you all the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. And don't forget, I will make sure that I have an Excel, because I did look at these slides, and it may be a little bit challenging to teach you all how I got the information, because I did that by hand. So I think if I do it in Excel and I keep the formulas there, it would probably be a little bit more helpful. And again, I'll do a startup for those who have not entered the market yet, and then I'll do one which has maybe 1 year of sales data, so that we develop the 2-year of the statement of income. Okay, so that's the end of this workshop for today. This was session 2. We will see you next Thursday for session 3. But before we go, I'd like to open up the floor. I do apologize. I was not feeling well today, but I love being here, and I wasn't going to let that stop me. So if you have any questions, any concerns, please let me know right now. I am here to answer any questions you may have, and I will make sure that we have some more information for session 3.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brandy. Somebody did ask, like, one question was like, how is Brandy so amazing? And a lot
Oh
of
my
people
God.
agreed. So I
Oh,
wanted to
thank you
pass that on
guys.
to
I
you.
really appreciate it.
I have a question, I think more to the group. somebody sent me a direct message, and I feel like this, I want to pose this to the group.
Okay.
They asked, where's a good place? Where are some places where, say potential artist management companies or agencies or A&R companies, artist and development companies, artist and repertoire companies might look to do your market research. So I was like, maybe LinkedIn or Google, but so does anybody know of lists for Canadian music companies? I feel like I've seen one actually in the city of Toronto before. But I just wanted to put that out to the group if anybody was like, oh yeah, no, you can just go here, you can just go here, just so people can do their market research. If anyone has any suggestions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to look up the lists that I think.
Mm-hmm.
In the UK, they have BPI, IFPI. That's right. Ontario Business Development has records of registered business and their info. Thank you, Jess. I was like, I know I've seen this. I've looked at it and then I forgot where it was. So Ontario Business Development. So in my post email with the recording and all that jazz, I'll find some links and add that in. Does anyone have any other questions right now? I feel like everybody's just sort of thinking about, what they need to do.
Right.
Somebody was asking, if there are any resources of where to look specifically for the Latin industry stats in Canada. That's a really good question. I don't know if
I don't
Canada
have
sectored it out like that. Could be.
It might be. And again, this is where we have to all do our work.
Yeah.
In making sure that all of us are represented. I've never seen this information, but I'm going to look into it for you.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, and someone has asked if oh, good. These are all super helpful. Spotify has some stat resources, Music Business Worldwide. Music Business Worldwide is really useful. That's a great website in general, everybody, to follow or to sign up for their newsletter, because they send out lots of like very breaking news in terms of tech and music and everything else. And someone has asked Brandy if we can have at some point the links to the value mapping stuff. That would be great.
Oh, for sure.
That would be awesome.
I think that's definitely been a big game changer in the business world. Documents that we used to produce before used to be like 70 to 80. You remember that, right, Andrea? 70 to 80. No, they used to be very long. If you look,
I've had a journey.
Proposal, okay.
My professional life has been weird.
Okay. But they used to be very long. But now we're using more images, we're using charts, we're using, we're trying to be more under, like, nobody has that amount of time, nobody has that much attention to, and meetings would go on for days and days and nothing would come of it, because it would be too much. So yes, I will definitely provide you with the value mapping, the value stream mapping. It's new, it's not new, but it's being newly innovated into all of the different plans and the different business sectors of writing. So if the sooner you learn it, the easier you'll be able to communicate and to be able to understand what's written in front of you if it is ever presented towards you. So maybe they're telling you how you will identify with your market and your customer and how you interact with everyone in the market, but they don't use 5-page of text. Maybe they just use the value mapping stream with a bunch of icons and you have no clue what it means. So it's good that we get that information out. I will make sure that you have that as well. So you can get into that. That's really helpful. Thank you for asking that. No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful. Amazing group. Thank you, everybody, for sharing all these resources and ideas. And you're all awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brandy, for today. And I hope you feel better soon.
I will. I'm going to drink some tea and snuggle under the blankets, put some Vicks. I should be good.
Okay, good stuff. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.